to keep wall funding out of it so the president could get Democratic support is that you would beef up detention centers and not be in a position where eventually you have to just let people go. What do you think of that?
Well, look, Neil, again, there's a myriad of different types of solutions that we actually absolutely need. You're keeping families together in an expedited process, which really, again, affects us on the front line. The fixes in the legal framework.
All right, that was the Customs and Border Protection's Robert Perez. This was at the time the Trump administration was and is looking at an asylum policy that's already facing a lot of legal challenges. Former ICE senior attorney John Gihon on what happens if that asylum policy is shot down. What do you think?
Neil, thanks for having me back on. The asylum policy is a long string of efforts that President Trump has made to try to create a deterrent for people coming to the southern border and claiming asylum. The president does not believe that most of those cases are meritorious, and so he wants them to be adjudicated as quickly as possible and have the claims that are not good denied and have the people returned to their home countries. The president also wants to remove what he considers to be the incentives to coming to the United States and applying for asylum. Right now, many people are eligible for bond. They can get out and they can live in the United States. They can work. They can hire attorneys and they can fight their cases for years here in the United States and try to qualify for asylum. And the president is trying to every opportunity he has to remove those incentives and change the law.
He's separately working and also being challenged on an idea where Mexico keeps detainees who are trying to be granted asylum or just a presence in the United States. And others argue that's unfair, that they should wait it out in the United States. What do you think?
Right. That policy is something that I think no one saw coming when the president put it out there, and it's one that I think will have a tremendous deterrent effect. If the Central American people from the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, if they know they can't even get into the United States to apply for asylum and they have to stay in Mexico, most of them probably won't come up here and apply for asylum because Mexico is dangerous. Mexico is not where they want to be. If they wanted to be in Mexico, they would have stayed in Mexico in their journey on the way to the United States. So I think this Remain in Mexico policy is extremely effective as a deterrent. I don't think it's a terribly great policy because it leaves those people at risk when we are trying to offer them protection, but it is a very effective policy.
You know what I notice is, you and I have talked about this before, John, but the administration has a cruel view regarding immigration, and they've just taken the word illegal immigration out of it. A record number, 1.25 million became U.S. citizens in this country in the most recent year. So that is continuing unabated. Of those who use the normal legal process for citizenship in the United States or to get green cards in the United States, that continues. And I'm wondering how that has happened, how this has morphed into you're racist, you're cruel, you're inhumane, the Statue of Liberty is crying and all this other stuff, when in fact, you know, increasingly Democrats from Cory Booker to Jay Johnson, you know, Barack Obama's former Homeland Security head is saying we do have a problem at the border, and it's a big one. What happened? How did this morph into a racist, cruel, inhumane argument?
I think it's all about optics, and it's about the word choices that the president uses. He has expanded upon the immigration policies. Many of them were put in place under President Obama. But because of the fact that President Trump uses not so nice language, he tweets all the time about the terrible people trying to come into the country and these terrible countries they're coming from, it looks as though he hates all of the people who are trying to come into the United States. So much of it is his own doing, where if he just stopped the rhetoric and stopped saying terrible things about the people and simply implemented the policies, I don't think he would get the pushback that he does, because a lot of what he does started under President Obama and started under President George W. Bush. And so much of it is the president's own fault in that he does not use the right language to try to prove to people that he believes in legal immigration. He believes in people coming to the country the right way. And people just don't trust him. And people don't believe that he believes any of that about immigrants. Everyone thinks he dislikes all immigrants, and that's mostly his problem.
That's very interesting. John Gihon, thank you very much. Good seeing you.
Thank you, Neil. You too.